Hey guys, Pureblood here, back again with another video. Just going to give you guys an update on my scrapper and where she's at as we head into vykas. I'll be going over my build and ending it off with a DPS check and a Descluda fight that I just did a couple days ago. So as you can see, I'm almost level 60. I should be there in a couple days, I'm hoping. But yeah, 1467 and slowly upgrading. I'm just using my bound leaf stones, so it's kind of a slow process because I don't have the best luck in the world. But yeah, I'm rocking the two-piece entropy and two-piece salvation, and then obviously when Vegas comes out, I'll be switching that into the full entropy set. My gems, almost all level 7s. I'm kind of been lazy on this. I could easily get these all level 7s, and then I'll probably just sit there for a while on those. And just the Lost Windcliff set, of course. And for my engravings, so when I first decided to upgrade my engravings and get some relic gear, I was going to just go for the best in slot, all these Grudge, Keen Blunt, Shock, Ambush, and then Cursed Doll. But, well, especially because the supports were going to be getting their four-piece bonus from vykas, so I thought that Spirit Absorption would be less required. However, then I looked at the prices on the market, what it would cost to get a full five-piece, and it was just way too expensive. So, like I'm sure many of you out there know how hard it is to find a class engraving 3 plus a 5 of any of the engravings that you actually need, plus the combat stat that's with it. It's just, you're paying like 80,000 plus gold for it, right? So it was just way too much, and so I wasn't able to get the full 5. And I also decided to go Spirit Absorption 2. I know that Adrenaline would be better here, especially because my crit rate's, probably just around like the 60% mark right now, which isn't, ideal. It's sufficient, but it would be nicer if it was a bit higher. But Spirit Absorption, it made this build way cheaper. Like being able to go 5 Spirit Absorption and, Keen Blunt or Grudge or something cost me, 500 to 1,000 gold, as opposed to if I went Adrenaline or something else, it'd be 10,000 plus gold. So like my entire accessory lineup, like I just have one legendary still, just because it has the shock training on it, right? But the rest, like everything, probably cost me only like 5,000 gold in total, which is huge because that allows me to save up for getting my grudge books soon, hopefully. I was able to cut a 9-5 stone, so that's good. Um, so yeah, this is my current setup. I'm probably just gonna stick with this until we hit clown, and then I'll try to reevaluate. We'll see what's on the market at that time. Hopefully the prices have come down by then, and I can make this into something a bit better. So yeah, whether that's going for the cursed doll or full spirit absorption or adrenaline, I'm not 100% sure just yet, but this is what I got for now. Another thing you may have noticed is that I have critical blow here, and I've been using this ever since I finished doing Vulcan for the first time, and I just wanted to test it out because I was kind of intrigued by it. Not a lot of people were using it, and it was hard to find some information on it. But ever since the patch changes, making this a back attack skill, it's become a viable option for shock. So I thought I'd test it out and kind of see how it was. I still don't have my final thoughts on it, just because it's kind of hard to do a comparison right now. Because I can kind of do a comparison of what True Rising Fist was when I was doing Vulcan, but then my gear wasn't as good. I didn't have the engravings that I do now, so it's really hard to kind of compare, damage wise, anyways. But I can speak on how the skill feels, the rotation, and that. So I will touch on that in a second. But I think I'm going to stick with it for now, just because, Korea did mention that they're going to be revamping how the tripod library works. And so you'll be able to, once you have your like maxed out tripods, you'll be able to store those and you'll have them forever. Then you can like swap them whenever you want. So, I already have the level 5 on the tendon rupture, and I would like to keep that. I mean, if it turns out that that change isn't going to happen for a long time because it's not even out in Korea yet, and then it could be a long time coming for us. However, it seems like they've given us a lot of the quality of life upgrades pretty quickly here, so I'm hoping that when Korea does get this, that we'll also get it pretty quickly after that. So I'm holding off for a bit longer. I'll stick with Critical Blow for now. Unless I get really frustrated by it or something like that, then I may just make the change. But yeah, kind of one of the big issues with it that I have is that it kind of, well, I guess I can get into. I did this like pros and cons thing that I could bring up here. So for Critical Blow, so the pros of it is that it's got a fast cast, low cooldown, has destruction on it, which is really nice, especially because it has a fast cast and low cooldown. So you can like get your charging blow, critical blow, death rattle in, for example, and that's three huge destruction skills right there. Then you have your chain destruction fist on top of that if you're able to get it off in time. But yeah, it's really nice to have the extra destruction skill for sure. And it also has some flexibility with tripods for group stagger. So you'd have to sacrifice your damage because this is like the only damage tripod that we have for critical blow. But you could take target focus here, which increases all party members' stagger damage to the target by 20% for 6 seconds. So that's pretty huge. So I don't know if there is some crazy stagger checks that we're going to have in the future where something like this could be nice to have. Obviously, you'll want to stick with tendon rupture if you can, but if this is needed, it's kind of nice to have that flexibility that you could like, sacrifice some of your damage for, helping your party get through a mechanic. So I thought that was kind of cool feature of it. But as for the cons, a low cooldown. So I know what you're thinking. You're like, hey, wait a second. You just had low cooldown as the pros. Why would this be a con? So the reason why it's kind of a con is that because it has a low cooldown, you're kind of struggling with shock gain. So this is causing a lot of shock issues. As you can see here, my next one says requires full, plus shock gain on your abilities, and I'll touch on that in a second. But yeah, you're really struggling for shock when you go with critical blow, and I don't even have quick prep leveled up to level 5 yet. So this will, reduce the cooldown by, a second and a half or something like that. So, that's just going to add to the problem. And so because of that, it requires full shocking. So you have no flexibility. Like you have to take crushing smite, which for some people that isn't like a big deal because this is like the meta setup anyways. Charging blow, fierce striking strike, and crushing smite. This is the meta. So if you're using this already, then this isn't that big of a deal for you. But for myself, I do like using Dragon Advent instead of Crushing Smite just for the added mobility. So for me, it kind of sucks that I'm kind of forced into using these. But it's not the end of the world. So yeah, that's another kind of negative for it. Yeah, it's almost gotten to the point where I feel like I need to take the focuser in here instead of the excellent mobility on charging blow as well, because that's how starved I am. And I don't even have maxed cooldown on my death rattle, which will, that's another zero point 0.8 seconds reduced on that, and my supernova, which is 1.3. So once I get all these maxed out with lower cooldowns, then I'm just going to need more shock on top of that, right? So I feel like I might be forced into doing this, which at the same time I don't think would be the end of the world. Excellent mobility is really excellent at times, but sometimes it's kind of a bit too much. Sometimes if you miss a boss that has like a low or a small hitbox, you kind of go flying by, and it causes more problems than it's trying to accomplish. But when you do need that big huge gap close, it's awesome. So yeah, I'm kind of torn on this, but I might try out the focus tripod here just to kind of see how it works with critical blow anyways. I think it might be worth checking out. um so yeah, another negative though is that it only has one damage tripod. So, you got the cooldown, you got this one, which is the only scaling damage tripod that you have. And this is like one of the most disappointing tripods that we have for sure. And the only reason why I'm actually leveling it up is because it's honestly like the only other good one to level up, unfortunately. So it just has like a flat damage, so it's the same amount of damage added as if it was level 1 than if it was level 5. The only thing you're gaining is the less shock consumption per cast. So yeah, it's not the greatest tripod for sure. So I feel like True Rising Fist probably will scale better into the late game, so that's probably another reason why it's not that great. But if you really don't like True Rising Fist, then this still could be a viable option. I just need to wait a bit longer until we get into the end game, where I have full tripods and I can like swap between the two. Like I think in Hell Mode Vulcan, where you can like choose, your loadout and everything, that will be a good platform for me to kind of like truly test the difference between the two and kind of see where they act compared to each other. Um, Another con is that it's easy to miss. So even though it has a fast cast, low cooldown, it's still an easy ability to miss, surprisingly. So I can just show you here. We summon a boss. Yeah, so like sometimes it feels like you move ahead a little bit as you cast it, so you feel like sometimes you're close enough, but you miss. See, like that, like looks like it probably hit, but it doesn't. So it hit there, or like if you're off to the angle a bit, it feels like you hit, but sometimes you don't. And plus, if the boss is moving and you just aim it off to the side a little bit, and he's moving that way, like you miss quite often. So you have to be really close to the boss to consistently land it. So yeah, that's a negative for it too. And then if we look at True Rising Fist. So the pros, it has 3 damage tripods. So where are we? So you'd probably take either Refined Skill or Lightning Fist. This is a flat damage, but this is scaling, objective hits, and Dragon's Fury. So that's 3 tripods that have scaling damage potentially. So I feel like this is probably going to do more damage the further you get into, your gearing in the late game. So that's kind of a big pro for it. It's easier to land. So even though it's got like a slow cast, and even if you miss your initial part of the cast and the boss moves or something, you have that follow up cast that you can cast in any direction, right? So you can follow up the boss. So if the boss moves after you cast it, you can just follow the boss. So it's a bit more extra mobility as well. So and it's easier to land, especially because the last tripod gives you a bigger AoE radius. So that's another pro for it. It also allows more build flexibility, and that just kind of goes back to what I was saying about being locked into these 3. So, by going True Rising Fist, you are not as shock dependent or shock starved, and so that allows you to potentially go Dragon Advent if you want. But even people that use True Rising Fist still use these 3 with the double focus as the meta. So this might just be the way to go regardless. But I still think you have that flexibility for sure, especially if you go for the focus on charging blow and then Dragon Advent here. That could be a potential setup as well. So just a bit more flexibility with your stamina skills. The cons is the longer cast and cooldown. So, similar to Critical Blow, there's pros and cons to the cast times and the cooldown. So, the con is obviously that it's a slower skill, and Shock already has a lot of slow skills, so maybe you don't like that, and you prefer Critical Blow because you just like having like a fast casting ability to just mix things up a little bit. And then also it doesn't have destruction, so which isn't, it's not a huge thing, but it is nice to have destruction on the Critical Blow. So those are kind of like the differences between the two. um, I'd say, yeah, I'm not as amazed by Critical Blow as I was kind of hoping. But I'm still open-minded about it. I still think I'm gonna continue using it for now into Vykas, and hopefully we'll hear something about the new tripod library, so I can take advantage of that. And yeah. So what else do we have? I guess I'll do just a DPS test, and I'll also leave you guys with a Descoluta fight that I did a couple days ago. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.